Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to Big Bang, and you say the Big Bang happened, I'm curious on what it's like to know how the universe was created. Like how you know
That's not
specifically
the
for
Big Bang.
well, you said the Big Bang happened.
Yeah, the universe expands. It ever since ever since time as we know it has been a part of this universe. The fabric
Okay.
of space time itself has been expanding. That's the Big Bang.
Well, the Big Bang, the idea of the Big Bang is that something came from nothing.
No, it's not.
Okay, then what is it?
It's that the universe expands. It expanded from a extremely high, uh, from a state of extremely high density and temperature. Says nothing. So like, our universe is on a timeline to the present day. The Big Bang is like, this is zero over here. Well, zero is over here actually. This is zero. The Big Bang is not about what happened over here. It never has been. It's never pretended to have the ability to do that. It never will be in the future because that's not what it's designed to do. Never has been, never was, never will be, and currently is not.
But how can you prove that the Big Bang happened? How can you prove that?
So scientists had no idea what the universe was like. All of the conventional wisdom from dead poets and old philosophers and religious zealots and whatever else was that we live in a static, eternal, unchanging universe because the universe is a reflection of God, which created it, and God has those characteristics, right? So that was the conventional. And when people looked up with the non-existent technology or the very crude technology we had, the only thing you could see were some planets, whatever the hell those things are, and you can see about 5,000 stars with the naked eye from Earth. So that was what the entire universe was. We thought we had no idea what it's really like, how much stuff is out there, and the characteristics of space itself. And then not until the 20th century did we learn like the scale of the size of the universe grew. It's not even appropriate to say it was exponentially. I mean, it grew basically infinitely. And then what we figured out was space is expanding. Like I don't know if you reject that, but the farthest away galaxies we look at, every single one of them is moving away from us because there's a stretch in the light they emit. It's a Doppler effect, like the and then there are some very clever mathematical predictions that were calculated in it's like 1948 or the 50s about when the universe began to expand. It the very extreme high energy from that we call it the cosmic today we call it the cosmic microwave background radiation, but they predicted how how strong that energy would have been back then, and after all these billions of years, what would the basically as that energy gets stretched out, what would it have cooled down to? And in 1968, a couple guys at Bell Labs in New Jersey found exactly that. And then there's the distribution of matter in our universe. It's totally uniform all throughout. So there have been a huge number of, well, maybe huge is going a bit too far, but there have been many extremely sophisticated mathematical and cosmological predictions that all came true about it. And we can see that the universe is definitely expanding. So
How do they measure that? How do they measure all of these types of things, though? Whenever you look through a telescope, and I'm sure that you have one based on upon everything that you're saying right now, and you've looked,
they don't use optical telescopes.
but okay, but I'm suggesting, do you own a telescope?
Yeah,
Yeah, and you've looked into the sky, you've looked into the luminaries above us, and seen what it is that's above us. Have you
like
ever? Have you ever?
I've seen some planets and things, but this galaxy, like, do you think there are other galaxies other than the Milky Way galaxy?
I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I'm saying based upon your the telescope that you do have you seen what you have suggested that things are moving away from us within the telescope that you have, or do you
That
have to have
telescope
something more?
that telescope, you don't do it. I own my own microscope too. I cannot see subatomic particles with my microscope, but
So why don't we have
I don't
access?
think it's there's nothing reasonable about rejecting the existence of protons, neutrons, and electrons.
Okay. So within the telescopes, the most powerful telescopes in the world that exist, I'm not entirely sure how many of them there are. But why could they not put a camera on there for us to see them zooming in into the galaxies that you're describing and see these types of
There's
things moving
a
away from us?
there is a like 1,000 something megapixel photo of the Andromeda galaxy that you can look at online. I've looked at
No,
it many,
I
many
want to see a
times.
live stream from these high powered telescopes that you're describing. I want to see a live stream. Put a camera on it. Put it in there for
There
us to see.
are
Why?
there's a professional astronomer. He goes by Professor Nixie. He has a telescope. He does live streams where he observes uh, things all the time.
It's a
He has
a
equipment for
personal
that.
telescope, though. Yeah,
Huh?
a personal telescope. Yeah.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
I, I'm talking about like the government funded type of telescopes, the ones that the Catholic Church owns, ones that the government owns. I'm
So
completely
I
okay with.
gave you so I gave you an example of where you can do this, and then you shifted the goalpost and demanded a much, much, much more stringent set of
But hold on,
proofs
no,
or
no, no, hold on,
whatever.
hold on.
But you sound
That-
like a flat earther who doesn't trust NASA anyways. So
no,
you're
no,
saying I don't trust these things. So
no.
give me evidence from them or I won't believe you. How about you just get
Okay.
the evidence from an independent source because you don't trust them anyways. I told you how you can access that and then you just rejected it. Seems kind of
No, no,
silly.
I'm not rejecting that. I'll search. You said Nixie, right? I'll get on there. I'll find
Professor
him.
Nick.
Spencer Nixie. I'll look at his work. I'm down for that, man. I'll look into his research and his findings. But that's something. What he has and what he owns is what we all have access to. Does he
I don't
possess
know what
something
that
that
means.
you could buy online from Amazon or from wherever it is that he bought his
It
telescope
would
from?
cost
Could you buy
thousands of
that?
dollars, but I could.
Correct.
I don't
Yes.
have any interest in doing that.
So,
I'm not going to buy an
so,
electron
so
microscope because those cost $250,000, but they do exist.
So what I'm saying is those people who have access to those types of telescopes, like governmental telescopes or scientifically researched telescopes, with the funding of NASA, whatever it
Professor
is that
Nixie
what,
doesn't get funding from NASA.
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are massively large telescopes
Oh,
that
look at that.
exist here
There's
on,
one right
and
there.
I'm completely what I want. I just want access to that. Why do they not put a camera and live stream what it is they're looking at? That's all I'm asking.
I don't know if they don't do that. They might. I mean, there are live streams of
If
satellites
they
that
did,
are orbiting the Earth, but flat earthers just say no, they're not. They say it's just CGI. And it's like, well, you can't. Like, if you ask for evidence, like
so you're
these,
so you're
when
you're
people do
directing
this,
you're
they're
directing it
obviously
towards
immune to any form of evidence because then they just say no when you provide it.
no, like, and now you're directing it, man. Like, all I'm asking for is give me the telescope, the observatory in California, in Los Angeles, where it's on top of a mountain. And I went there, I saw it, I looked. I mean, I didn't, I what, I did not get access to the telescope or whatever it is. I just got access of the building. Let me go inside and put my eye through that telescope and see what's going on in the universe. You know what I'm saying? People don't
I'm
have
not
access to
sure if
that.
they use optical telescopes like that. But, um, what? How do I want to say this? Do you deny that Fort Knox exists?
No, no, I can't say that I do.
Okay, but you know that they don't just let people go in there and look at all the gold, right? Actually,
I mean,
most gold isn't in Fort Knox, but
I mean,
right?
yeah, it's a highly yeah. There's a lot of gold there. You're not gonna let people go there
Okay,
just
ready?
willingly.
Ready? My claim is that Fort Knox is it's a total it's not even real. There's no gold there. That's my claim.
Sure,
If there was, then there should be a live stream of it and they should let people walk around in there.
that's completely different.
No,
What
it's
you're
not
what,
completely different.
man. So we are denied the right to look at what is in the
You don't
galaxy.
have the
And
right.
what do you mean we don't have the right? That's taxpayer money
The
providing these people to have the
the
equipment that they have. What do you mean we don't have the right to that? And if not, they should
You
live
can get
stream it.
access to the
Like
info. You can't
okay,
go
so
into the
here you
White
have
House.
it.
Go walk
Here
into the
you
White
have it.
House. It's taxpayer funded. Go ahead.
Here you
Go
have it,
ahead.
man.
Go walk
There's
into
the
Fort Knox
ISS.
in Area 51 too.
There's the ISS. It's always it's just going around and around the Earth, and we can
You
see
can
the Earth. We can see what's
you can
going
look
on.
at it with a telescope.
But we are denied the access to high powered telescopes that exist here on Earth. There's multiple of them, 8,
The
10,
Griffith
15,
observ
20. I don't know. But
The vast majority of these are owned by private companies. They just
but
corroborate
you're
with
telling
NASA.
you're telling me there's not a government owned telescope that we have never had access to see in the depths of space.
They're probably, well, like the Hubble telescope, yes, and the
No,
James
no,
Webb telescope, yes.
but those are in space. I'm saying ones that are here on Earth.
There may be, but a lot of them are private and public uh, corroborations. A lot of them are in like Chile, and there's the Keck Observatory in Hawaii. But for the same reason that they wouldn't just let you or me go into Fort Knox and be like, "Show me all that gold. You're making it up." You and I both know that there are good reasons not to just let anybody go in there and do that, and there are good reasons to not just let anybody go into
So at that point, you're
an
saying that
observatory. And you don't have the right to, like, there are certain things you can FOIA request and whatever. And guess what? The findings that NASA does, the ones that aren't like classified, are published. This information is out there. You're just not satisfied with the the fact that they publish it online. That's not good enough because you're moving the goalpost. You're saying, no, the evidence isn't good enough. I want evidence served on a silver platter to me.
and what's wrong with that? With today's technology, what's wrong with asking for a silver platter? And I'm kind of confused on the aspect of what you described, man. Specifically,
Okay.
whenever okay, man, I'm 34 years old, and I'll bring a little bit into the flat Earth. I don't necessarily subscribe to flat Earth. I don't believe we know what it is that we live on. You can say that you're a glober man. That's completely okay. But this is like one thing that hit home for me was specifically when I was in seventh or eighth grade and I was listening to Bill Nye the Science Guy. And I'm not saying that what he says is all true and gung ho, but a lot of people do subscribe to Bill Nye. And I specifically remember he's like, man, this is how you know that we live on a spinning ball globe Earth. And he's like, and then you see this boat in the distance of the Earth, and you see the boat disappear over the horizon. And he says, and this is what Bill Nye says, he says, you see the boat disappearing over the horizon because that's the curvature of the Earth. And we now know that to be false with people who have and own a P900, P1000 camera. They go to that same beach, they see the boat disappear, and they can bring it back in focus with a P900, P1000.
No, not forever. You can't.
Yes, you can. You watch it disappear, and you have your P900. You can bring it back into focus it's because there is no curvature. That's you know what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that the Earth is flat. I don't know what it is that we live on, but those videos exist. They are out there, and they are there.
Oh, for crying out loud. I went to YouTube and typed in watching boat disappear below the horizon to try to give you an example, and every single thing is that stupid submarine. So the algorithm is just saturated. So, like, the fact that the sun sets just completely destroys that idea. Because you can't zoom in the sun after it has set.
You can though. Do you own a P900? Do you own a P9? Listen, my man. Do you own a P900 or a P1000?
No, I don't.
So buy one, and then tell me that you can.
How about we just look at somebody else doing this?
Or I will literally send you my P900. You don't have to spend a dime. DM me your address, bro. I will send you my
I think at
P900.
this stage, most of us have seen.
No, that won't be necessary. So, zooming it in. And he has quite high magnification. I don't know if it says on here what they're using. Show more. I don't know if he has his camera specifics up there, but we'll just skip because we're trying to get to the point where it's setting. So there's the sun setting. I mean, there it is from, the naked eye-ish perspective or whatever. And we zoom in and we can see that the disk of the sun does not become more complete. It's just simply disappearing below the horizon. And then once it sets, no amount of zooming. We can clearly see zooming. It doesn't come back.
What type of camera is he using?
I don't know, but he's clearly zooming in a lot.
Okay, so
The sun's not going to appear just by zooming in somewhat more.
Can you put it in perspective and do the same research on a boat doing the same thing?
I've seen those. I've seen extremely zoomed in views. Like to the naked eye, a boat will disappear because it just becomes too small. Before, if it's a small boat, and then you can zoom that in. But I've seen zoomed in footage of boats disappearing from bottom to top. I mean, if you want to watch that, I guess we can.
I'll leave it at this, man, because I know you probably got some other people trying to join you.
Nope, you're the only one.
Okay. You truly believe we've been traveling millions of miles per hour in the infinite of space for 4 billion years or 17 billion years? Lawrence Krauss said
that's an argument from increduludity. That doesn't make sense. It can't be true. That's not a good argument.
No.
In fact, it's not an argument. It's a logical fallacy.
I'm asking you, whenever our galaxy was formed, whatever you want to call it, and let's say it was formed a couple billion years ago, do you think we've truly been traveling millions of miles per hour, and you think that space is infinite?
I have no idea if space is infinite. It might be. What's wrong with it being infinite?
I just don't think that really makes sense, that it's infinite.
But that's not an argument.
What is an argument? That it is?
It's an argument from incredulity is not really a good argument.
The only thing that you're stating that would make your argument valid is that you believe in NASA and that they've sent these extremely expensive cameras into space, and this is what space is, and we have to believe it because this is what NASA said. And you believe it because none of us have been to space. Everyone in this chat, no one in this chat has been to space. We've never been to the moon. All these other types of things, like you're believing in a fantasy just as much as I believe in a fantasy.
No.
Yeah, 100%, man. What makes your fantasy different than mine?
Evidence. Yours has no evidence.
From who? From other human beings that are looking through a telescope. Like, dude, like
okay, what is your evidence and where does it come from?
I'm not suggesting that I have evidence. I'm trying to basically
then you have no claim and you have nothing to argue against me with.
Based upon you believing in a institution that is corrupt.
There are other space agencies, and like I said,
where's Russia's space agency? Where's Russia's space agency?
Professor Nixie doesn't work for NASA. He has a telescope, and he'll show you other things in our solar system.
I've seen high-powered camera zooms on other planets, and to me, they do look luminary. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't look like a physical object. I don't know.
What do you think the moon is?
I don't think any of us know what the moon is.
What do you think the moon is?
The moon is kind of trippy. If you look at Crow 777, about 4 or 5 years ago, he did film a lunar wave on the moon. It's very strange. This gentleman, you look up the lunar wave of Crow 777, CRROW 777.
What do you think the moon is?
I don't think any of us could have a legitimate, none of us have a legitimate opinion on what the moon is because we can't go to the moon.
What do you think the moon is?
I have no idea. I won't say what I know what the moon is.
Okay, well, I say that it is a rocky body in space. You can get a telescope and look at it, and like flat earthers will say things like the moon is just a two-dimensional like light being projected. You actually think that this object that obviously has physical craters on it is that?
You could literally watch a a if you go to Dubai right now and you're sitting there chilling on one of their high rise, sky rise, whatever it is, and you can watch a whale swim in the air, into the air. What I'm saying is, just because you see something
What?
doesn't make it legitimate.
Okay, so even so earlier you're like none of us have been to space, and now you're saying even if I see it, that doesn't prove anything. This is you're like an impenetrable fortress of contradictions and goalpost moving.
My whole life, what you've been telling me, and I'm supposed to subscribe to what it is that you're saying. That's my whole life. I'm not supposed to question it.
What?
I'm supposed to believe exactly what it is you're saying.
You can
Everything
believe
that you
your
were saying
own
right now.
two eyes. I told you
That's what I'm
something.
saying.
I've told
That's
you
what I'm
several
saying.
things you can do with your own two eyes, and you just have been like, "Nuh-uh," and we don't know what the moon is. No, like by looking at the moon, it's so obvious that like
So you believe we went to the moon?
in a weird philosophical sense, I agree that you can never prove anything indefinitely, but by looking at the moon, it's extremely obvious what the best explanation for what it is is. Is it made of cheese? Here are options. It's made of cheese. It doesn't even exist. It's a hologram. It's a projection. It's an actual rocky spherical body in space.
Do you think we went
The
there?
only observational evidence of the moon supports the idea that it's a spherical, rocky, physical object in space.
Well, you can't say it's spherical because it doesn't necessarily we never see the other side of the moon. So you necessarily can't say that. Do you believe that we went to the moon?
Yes, but that's actually irrelevant because we wouldn't need to go there to look at it. And like, look at this. You see that? You see this crater right here? Do you see how that crater is not a perfect circle? When you take craters are circular, but when you take a circle and you shift the perspective, it becomes elliptical. That's an elliptical crater. This is very obviously a spherical surface that is curving away from us. That's clearly what that is.
And I'm just curious, where are the just curious.
I whatever CDN dot I just googled this, but again, you can get my telescope was super cheap, and I can get images of the moon that look very very similar to this just with my cell phone.
Right. I'm
So
not,
could you. So could anybody. You can
yeah,
prove
yeah.
this for yourself. I look,
We can all prove that we can see it.
even if we never went to the moon or even if we faked the moon landing, you'd still be able to empirically observe the moon and be like,
Correct.
okay, what's the best explanation for what's going on up here? A hologram, a two-dimensional object, a luminary light source, it doesn't even exist, or it's a rocky spherical body in space. Rocky spherical body in space.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
But I don't think that we'll ever know because we can't go there. So just
That
because you see it and just because 7 billion people see that, it doesn't suggest necessarily that it is what it is because none of it, we've
that's the
never,
only thing it suggests.
no, it's there every single day for however long that this earth has been here and people have been on it and been able to observe what is up in the sky and they see that the moon is there. Yes, we see that. And now we have a P900 or we have high powered telescopes and we can zoom in on those craters that you just showed. That's all that is. Doesn't mean that we've been there. You just showed me a fancy picture. Show me a fancy picture
I didn't
of
say that this means we've been there. We're talking about what's the best explanation for what it is. Look, you might be an AI chatbot that's been given like a voice mod or whatever. It's possible. I really doubt it. I really doubt it, though. I really doubt it. I might be a deep fake. You know that that's possible, right?
No, I don't think you're a deep fake.
Exactly. But you don't know it, do you?
No, I don't. You're completely right. Yeah.
Now, is it 50-50?
Just based upon my experience in the world that I live in, I couldn't tell you if it's 50-50. I don't know where you're going with this, man. You're trying to make a point.
So we have two options. I'm a deep fake or I'm not. Would you guess that the odds are about 50-50? would you
You
guess
can't
the
compare that.
odds are extremely close to 100% that I'm a real boy and not a deep fake? Or perhaps
That's
I'm Zardberg.
what you're suggesting doesn't prove that the moon is a rock in
I'm not trying
that's
to prove
200,000
anything.
miles
I'm
away.
trying to say what is the best, most rational approach we can take given the evidence we have.
Based upon the evidence that we have and the institutions that are involved, I don't believe that we can necessarily trust those institutions to understand what it is that they're telling us. That's just that's where I'm at, man. And I'll never be able to get away from that. I'm sorry, I just won't.
That's fine. You don't have to believe NASA. I gave you all kinds of examples of where you can get information independent of NASA.
Not even NASA, man. You look at SpaceX and you look at Elon Musk and he launches the car into space, the Tesla. And I'm still looking for an uninterrupted view, camera view of a rocket exiting Earth's atmosphere. No matter what view you have, no matter what camera angle or whatever it is that you have, there will always be a split. There will always be a split in the camera or a transition. Sorry, there's never an uninterrupted view. Sorry,
Could
you
you
still
see
there?
me? Could you see me just there?
No, you paused it.
Must be deep fake.
Well, when you're sending shit into space and you're spending millions of dollars, I would expect an uninterrupted view.
That we call
Why
we
is that
call
so
we
hard to
call
ask
that
for?
we call
Why is
that
that?
move. Well, it's called moving the goalpost.
No,
You're
no,
saying like
you can't.
for
It's
the
not moving the
longest
goalpost.
time it was show us footage and then there's footage and then it's no, show me uninterrupted footage, and
But when it's
even if
every
there's a
case though, it's
split
every
second of
case.
interruption, then
It's
it's
every
not
case.
like people watched the thing go into space. The live stream happened at the same time. You could have watched both things happen at the same time, and even if the video was like you still know that the thing is up there launching up into space because there are people watching it happen. So
So
the weird glitches as we're trying to stream a video of a thing going up in the air, where obviously there isn't any internet connection or anything like that. Like, it's just, you're always going to come up with the most unreasonable of expectations because you're committed to not believing it. You said, I just don't trust these institutions. That is always that's always the rationale and the justification behind the skepticism. And so nothing will ever be good enough.
but you sit there and you say that, but then they have a completely amazing internet connection from the ISS down to Earth. So you can't have it both ways, man. You can't have your cake and eat it too, man. It doesn't work like that.
Well, I would say that NASA has more money than SpaceX, so they could probably deal with
Come
that
on, man.
better.
With the
Um,
statement you just said, and then I bring up the point that the ISS has a perfect connection of the world spinning at all times in a 24-hour feed. You can't have it both ways, man. You can't.
Really? It can't be the case that SpaceX,
That
which isn't NASA and doesn't have NASA's budget, uh,
what do you
I
mean?
don't even know. I
Not
don't
his
even know
budget.
what
It's
we're
Elon Musk.
arguing
He's
here
the
for.
richest man in the world.
Yeah, I know that. He doesn't spend that's just his net worth. I mean, SpaceX's budget is not $159 billion or
No, I understand that.
whatever his net worth is or whatever. But again, like, whether or not we have ever been to space or whatever is actually completely irrelevant to the shape of the Earth, because there are plenty of very easy tests we can do. We did the sunset test, so that was pretty definitive. It definitely disappeared below a horizon.
Yeah, I feel you, man. That was a legitimate video that I need to look into, and I need to watch that and look at the comments and just try and understand what that is. You're completely right.
So, like you said, you're not super, like, you're not all in on the shape of the Earth, right? You don't trust
Correct.
NASA, but you're not okay. Okay. So, do you think, for example, that it's an extremely bad idea for pregnant women to smoke and drink?
No, that'd probably be a bad idea. Yeah.
Okay, well, I could just be like, oh, well, what, you just believe everything the Surgeon General says? Why do you trust a government institution?
One more time, sorry.
So I could respond with, oh, so you just believe whatever the government tells you because those are like Surgeon General recommendations. Warning, this product is a known carcinogen and pregnant people shouldn't drink and smoke while skydiving on a roller coaster, blah, blah, blah. I could just be like, I don't trust the government, so why would I trust that? So, like, I'm just confused as to why trust those things, but not the shape of the Earth. That one's just so weird to me. And why pick that one of all the other things? I agree with you that governments lie a lot, but that doesn't mean that they always lie about everything or even most things.
It's a really good question, man. And I think that's a question I struggle with every single day that I participate or every day that I live in this life. Um, it's a really good question, man. It really is. Damn. That's it. That's in a podcast in its own. And honestly, I don't know your name. I'm sorry, but I do a podcast. And I'd love to have you on sometime just to have a conversation. Um, I think if you were to ask me, I think when you subscribe to what it is, the mainstream narrative is that we live on a globe, we live in this universe, and it's ever expanding, and you have multiple galaxies, billions of galaxies, and there's these alternate universes, and there's these black holes, and there's this, and there's these nebulas, and there's all these different types of things. I think it takes away from the human experience in that we truly are special, and that maybe we are more than just floating in the abyss of nothing, heading in a direction that is nothing.
An appeal to emotion is also not an argument.
And no, and I'm not trying to appeal to emotion, but and I'm not even saying that there's a creator. Dude, I have no idea, man. But what I'm saying makes more sense in my mind than the latter, than what NASA is saying or what mainstream science says. Me obstructively looking into the sky and just seeing what it is my common sense suggests, I kind of just, I don't know, man. That's just kind of more or less where I'm at.
Okay. Dum da dum da dum dum dum. All right. Well, we talked for quite a while. Anything else?
No, that's it, man. Yeah. Your comment section saying don't join the podcast. If you don't want to, man, it's all good.
How's the pay?
Nah,
That was a joke. That was a joke.
I have 3 kids, man. I'm a middle income man. There's no pay to be involved, man. I just try and spread knowledge, and you have knowledge to be said, man. So it would be fun. It'd be a good conversation. If not, no worries, brother. I
Well,
appreciate the
I'm glad. I'm
conversation.
glad you have a hobby. Those are good.